dilemma that Richard and I are talking about is kind of on this screen right now. It's about that balance. And there's a lot to be said about managing that balance. And what's at stake is we're all involved. We're all about it. So this little blue line that you see up here is about the carbon side of the saving money, the energy efficiency side. And if we don't get this right, the money won't matter. And so, and I know, Michael, we wanted to focus on saving money, and we're definitely going to show you how to do that. But the great thing that Richard and I know is that we can do both.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, and that's the dilemma. So a little bit about me. I'll talk about this picture. This is an older picture. This is Shanghai circa 1950. This is Shanghai today. It's all about growth. And that's the challenges that we have today. So KFC, this is about when we had 2,000 stores. I think we have 8,000 stores, and we're looking to be 20,000 stores in China. And that's 2,000 RGMs being recognized on the Great Wall in China because of the great job that they're doing. So we're all chasing the same thing. We're hungry for growth and creating value. This is just a quick experience in South Africa about, creating memories and what it's all about. The servitude that's connected to this industry, because that's what we're here to do, is serve others and create a wonderful experience through food. Excuse me. And then it's about the end of the rainbow is how do I provide back to my shareholders? How do I provide back to if you're an independent business, back to your family and feed your family. So it's about the money at the same time.
Yeah.
So which road are we going to take?
Yeah.
How do we get there?
We'll do both. We're going to stay in business and we're going to do good. And
Exactly.
that's the great thing about today. And that's why you guys got up this morning, right? Because we're fully confident that it's all possible and it's not rocket science.
Absolutely. This is a little data point that, we heard the common theme about you have to listen to the voice of the customer. And there's customers that care about this. So it's 88% of the customers say we got to manage, our consumption a little bit better, right? And then 90% say we all have a responsibility as corporations and individuals to think about the environment and the social impacts and how we operate. And those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. You don't have to sacrifice making the money to accomplish this. You have to leverage technology and innovation and think differently to be able to balance both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then the question is, what's the compass? The social compass, the moral compass, the financial compass, what is the roadmap? How do we get there? And I would argue that you can't get there alone.
Yeah.
We talked about people capability. I heard that consistently yesterday. We talked about you can't do it without building great teams, and this is about connecting with the right people, which is kind of, I think, the theme of this year's Restaurant Spaces. So I just wanted to give a shout out to David Harfring, who has been excellent, and he's a great resource. He's with a company called Halton, and he can help you do both. He can help you save energy and reduce carbon in your restaurants. He's a great individual, great person. I've been honored to be able to work beside him in this journey, and a lot of the work that you'll see here today that we'll talk about, as you know, Richard, for helping us, is due to his leadership.
Yeah, so. and David burned a lot of air miles to make those China stores work, and a lot of early morning phone calls. So he's smiling, yes.
Right. So when you were sleeping yesterday, we opened up 6 restaurants. And tomorrow when you wake up, we'll open up another 6. So we're on this, big journey between KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, with Yum China, about growth. And this is why you're here, right? You're trying to figure out, how do I grow my business? How do I connect? How do I help this restaurant grow? And this is what we want to get to. So I'm going to pass it over to Richard to go through the details of, actually how do we get the money in the wallet, in the pocket. So.
All right, thanks. And I'm fueled up on coffee and bacon, so I'm going to take you guys for a wild ride here. Everybody ready to strap on? I've got a lot of slides, but we're going to go for this. And the one good thing is that I know that they're videotaping, and so I know you can go back and get this information. That's why I'm going to move quickly and just give you a bunch of stuff. And I also know that Michael's going to send you guys handouts, so don't panic too much about writing everything down. What I want you to do is absorb some of the big messages here. And some of you have noticed the new logo, Frontier Energy, so I'll just go through that really quickly. Frontier Energy, for all these years, I've always been a consultant, and you know us as Fishnick, okay? So all the difference is Frontier Energy, we now partner with some other energy efficiency folks, so we have more capabilities. So don't panic when you see a new logo there. And we still, there we go. We still partner with PG&E to run the Food Service Technology Center. How many people know the Food Service Technology Center? How many people been there? Yeah, not enough. This is great. You're my perfect audience, okay? And believe it or not, we've been running the Food Service Technology Center for 30 years. This summer will be our 31st year. And I have been on the project 29. This fall will be my 30th year in this business. I know you're amazed. Yes, I was part of the kindergarten release program. It was a STEM training, and I got in there. Oh, okay, come on, you can giggle about that. Yes, that's a bad joke. That's a dad joke, okay. Anyway, the bottom line is we have a lot of information. I'm happy to share it with you guys. And if you come up with a question, I can probably give you a good answer. So let's hit you with a big scary slide. Carbon. Oh my God. Oh, it's that word. He said it. He did it. In the same way that Nolan predicted you'll all have a drone pad in your backyard, I can tell you with certainty that you will have to deal with carbon at some point, okay? Your companies are going to trade in it. Your corporate sustainability is going to ask you about it. But I don't want you to panic, okay? But you will have to deal with it. One of the first things you should have on your radar is the fact that California in the year 2030 wants all new commercial buildings to be zero net energy. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but that's the goal, and that's why you need to start moving towards carbon literacy. But once again, don't panic, okay? Keep calm. Let's not get too worked up about this stuff. It can get complicated, it can get political, it can get emotional. Don't worry about it, because bottom line is that effective energy use cuts carbon. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And when I say effective energy use, you know, we've always talked out, Roger, we pitch out energy efficiency, and it sounds like a green huggy tree thing, and that's fine. Okay, so I live in Oakland, and next to Berkeley, San Francisco, Bay Area. It's great to talk sustainability there, but the rest of the world sometimes recoils on this notion of energy efficiency. So let's forget energy efficiency. What I really care about is the business side, and that's the effective energy use. Okay, you are buying energy in the same way that you're buying labor and you're buying food, and I want you to get the maximum dollar return on that, the maximum return on your investment capital, right? So that's effective energy use. I want you to think of energy as a tool for growth, and for money. And then all the sustainability stuff just happens. That's why we got this great title. So it's been a week ago, almost exactly, Jot Condi from the California Restaurant Association came out for our annual forecast class. And Jot's great. If you ever get a chance to listen to Jot speak, he's wonderful. And he basically talked about labor issues, increasing, lease cost, stagnation and growth, all these issues. And basically his bottom line is it ain't easy to make a buck, right? And in this conference, we've talked a little bit about this, but particularly in America, you're facing these pressures of growth. And as I listened to Jot, I just kept thinking, this industry buys $40 billion a year of energy, okay? That's a lot. That's across the United States. And if you could cut your energy use by 10%, that's $4 billion back into the revenue stream of the food service industry, which is the same as growing the entire industry by 0.5%. And in that same forecast class, Robin Ashton with Food Service Equipment Reports, anybody know Robin out there? And anybody ever listen? You can sign up and check into his forecast, and I think you should do that. Robin talked about the fact that you're trying to do 1.5% real growth in the food service industry in 2018. So saving 10% of your energy gets you 0.5% growth. It's valuable. It's a good business move. Okay, so what are we going to do here? Let's get down into the action stuff. I want you to walk away with some tools, with some things to think about, some things to put right into practice. So the very first thing you need to do is better ops. I'm going to give you 3 very simple better operations tips. And I know for the development guys, you're going like, oh, we don't have any leaks in our restaurants. And then any facility manager guys out there? People, yes. Do you have leaks? Yes, you do. All right, so easy thing, okay, fix the leaks. We did some training God, I guess it was the beginning of February, we trained 1,000 team members from a big chain that came through for 2 weeks. And I asked every group that came through, have you seen a leak in a restaurant? Of course, 100% of the people raised their hands. And how many of you could probably find a leak today? And about 30%. This is a major restaurant chain, so I know you have them. Okay, why fix leaks? Because most of the leaks are hot water. Hot water costs you for the water, the sewer, the water heating. It's an expensive way to generate carbon, essentially. So fix your leaks, change out light bulbs. I go into your restaurants all the time. I still see old school lighting. I see so many ways to easily save on money. Lighting in a food service operation, 1 year payback, 2 year payback, lower maintenance, all this kind of stuff. Just yesterday I was looking at the guy down at the end of the hall with the scissor lift up there changing out old school light bulbs, and they weren't putting in the efficient light bulbs. I'm thinking, how is that hard to do? And he goes, yeah, every time I have to get the whole scissor lift and unscrew each piece. It's not right. There's maintenance there. There's energy there. It's all these things. They should just upgrade the lights, and then they'll never pull the scissor lift out again. And then controlling your startup and shutdown schedule, which also always stuns me that people aren't doing this, right? Andy does a startup and shutdown schedule. Roger's going to do this. Simple stuff. But we need to do this, right? And so let's step through real quick. Drip gauges. So I made this promise to everybody out there. We have these little drip gauges. They're great for training the staff. They're great for showing the value of leaks. We'll send you one. You get the drip gauge, then you read off the side, you go to our little online calculator, you put the number in, the gallons per day leak, you come up with an easy number. It's very powerful for talking to management, for talking to facilities, and it has real bottom line implications. So if you email Kiana, kcaban@frontierenergy.com, and ask her for drip gauges, we'll send them to you, okay? So everybody take a photo of that page. That's a real tool to put in your hand. How many people going to RIFMA next week? Anybody going to RIFMA? Yeah, I'll probably bring some of these things with me too. So meet me at the booth and I'll give you some. But yeah, ask us. These are real tools that we give you. It doesn't cost you anything, okay? Also on the lighting, to make it simple for people to try and upgrade the lighting, we have a very simple online calculator. You punch in a couple of numbers, you get a quick answer, you take that to the purchasing guys, the ops guys. Is it worth changing out a light bulb? Yes, absolutely. So for this big chain, once again, I was stunned. We worked with them in 1996 on fairly advanced lighting projects, and I figured the entire chain had converted over to LED lighting, and one of their corporate engineers said about 30% of the chain's converted. So same thing, I asked every group that came through, have you converted to LED lighting? And it truly was about 30% of the group. It's a no-brainer, guys. This is a really easy way to save energy, make money, okay? So use this one. These are 50 lamps in here. In my quick calculation is $2,700 a year. It's probably a 1 year payback, maybe 2 year payback. It's fast and easy to do. And cuts the maintenance, that's the other big thing. The startup and shutdown schedule, the National Restaurant Association Sustainability Report says that you guys, for all restaurants, about 63% are on startup and shutdown. For chain franchise, maybe 67%. It really should be 100%. This is the easiest thing you can do. You just should do it. Why would you ever run your gas-guzzling, heavy-duty, energy-intensive appliances more than you needed them? But we do it all the time. It's just habit. Okay? And we'll talk a little bit about how those habits happen. If you're looking for an example beyond, Andy over here, Roger, who's going to give you stuff, another place you can check out is Food Service Equipment Reports did a whole piece on Arby's. The three of us heard Frank Enenwood talk at the MUFIS conference about what Arby's has done, and Arby's hit 15% energy savings with just these very basic operational changes, lighting, aerators, all this kind of stuff, and they did it before their plan. It was like falling off a log for them. So follow these models, you guys out there. There's money on the table. So here's the really thing for people that are in development, okay? You may not be on the ops side, although there's a room full of people that'll help you on the ops side. But when you start doing store development, you really need to be thinking about that engine that you're putting back there. Your kitchen's the engine. And as Nolan talked about the fact that you may have nothing but the kitchen in the future, right? With all these delivery options, the kitchen becomes ever more important. The engine becomes ever more important. So you really need to think about your specs and your processes. So first thing I'm going to say is specify Energy Star appliances, okay? The second thing is follow the rebates. And the third piece is review your processes and think about what you're doing. Are you doing it as efficiently as possible? So let's talk Energy Star. National Restaurant Association. How many people have seen this Restaurant Association report? Anybody ever read that? There's the what's hot and then there's sustainability report. You guys should just check it out. It's easy, the graphics are great, and it gives you a window into what the world is doing. For Energy Star, so almost half of you guys are refrigerators. That one kind of makes sense. I know there's an old fleet of refrigerators. This should be 100% pretty soon. But on the fryer side, 22% of the food service world is efficient fryers. That should be 100% too, unless somebody is just a mom and pop startup and they buy the lowest cost fryer. Everybody in this room that is in restaurant development that's on the chain side, you guys are long-term surviving businesses. You should be buying premium fryers, absolutely. Okay, so that number's low. These numbers are low. You're not picking up on Energy Star, and purchasing Energy Star is easy as falling off a log. It's easy to get. We've already done the homework for you. It's a good business case, so do that. The other thing the report said is only 16% of the operators are picking up the rebates. So across the country, there are rebates. The average rebate for a efficient gas fryer across the United States is $1,000. In California, we give you $750. You guys are leaving money on the table. So you need to pick that up. It's a good business case. Buy the efficient fryers. Let us pay you for it. It's your dollars. In California, we have the California Energy Wise program, and we have this thing called a QPL, a Qualified Products List, which is basically your shopping list. And I know that you have the realities of trying to deal with your franchisees, like how do we talk them into buying more efficient equipment? If you need help, we have educational materials. We can help you guys. We can do webinars. We can show people. We can do the analysis. You can say, if you're going to buy a fryer and you're going to be within our chain, we want you to have, California Energy Wise qualified fryers. There's a lot of information that you can use for real in your store development. So it's out there. So I want to give you a little evidence of this stuff. We recently completed a California Energy Commission cook line study. So even though Nolan said, was a little irritated with California, listen, the Energy Commission laid down a few $1 million over 3 years to do a really deep cook line study. And the results, we've just posted them. We're about to post the final report, so it's fishnick.com, CEC Cook. This is the thing now that you take back to your engineering staff, okay? You guys don't necessarily have to sit and read this stuff, although I'd say you should read the case studies. But go to your spec guys, get them to really look at this report because there's some good juice in there. And I know how many other engineers in the room? Any other engineers? We got a sprinkling there, David, and the two of us, right? We're both electrical engineers. So we understand that you made the nerdy, the engineering number stuff, on these next couple of slides I'm going to show you really are kind of on that engineer side. And I recently did the DNA thing, and so I was excited, got my results back, and it said, yes, I'm 80% engineer, 10% human, and 10% undetermined. So anyway, forgive me for these next slides, but here's the evidence, and it's pulled from this report. We went to a restaurant, we replaced a convection oven with a combination oven. Here's the energy used before, the old convection oven. Here's the energy used from the combination oven. $650 a year. It's about a 20% savings, and they expanded the menu, and they shrank the footprint and actually shut down an exhaust to it. So there are ancillary performance benefits from this as well. We went in, we replaced an entry-level high-efficiency fryer with a really high-performance high-efficiency fryer, which is the one you guys should be buying. And that was $365 a year. There's the before fryer, and you can see late at night here we've got we still had the pilot light going, new fryer, no pilot light, $365 a year. Once again, it's easy to make that 10% savings. We're talking 15, 20, 25, 30%. And in this case, $1,000 a year in oil savings. So once again, performance benefit. So for any of you franchisees that are saying, I don't want to step to the high performance fryer, this is probably a 2-year payback on a fryer they're going to keep 8, maybe 10 years because the high performance fryer will last longer. So good benefits. Here's one where I talk about rethinking your processes. A lot of you guys have broilers. Broilers are probably the biggest energy guzzler in your kitchen. They're not that easy to deal with. And we were looking at a big catering kitchen that had several of these broilers, and we said, hey, what if we try something totally different? So what we decided to do was take a chain broiler and stick it in there. And if you think about a broiler, it's manual, somebody's flipping stuff all the time. The chain broiler, you load it. How many of you guys have chain broilers in your store? Some of you have them, right? And you have them because it is consistency, it's easy to use. So we've been working on the high efficiency chain broilers for a long time. We stuck one of those guys in. This is a big airline catering operation. They were able to expand their menu. They loved it, right? And without any special training, we had 17% savings, $1,000 a year, 18 therms to 15 therms a day. And they ended up with a cooler kitchen, an expanded menu, increased throughput, and consistent product because we thought outside of the box, right? And we reduced the footprint. And that was without really trying, okay? Without any deep training or without any institutionalizing, we stuck this piece of equipment in and got 17% savings. So then Yala, is Yala in the room? We worked with Yala at PG&E. I'm looking to see, not in here, because I think they were at the conference. As we were working on this cook line project, we came along and did a site survey for Yala, which is a small chain, and we noticed that they had this massive long broiler that sort of, serially rotates the kebabs. And we said, hey, we've just tried this chain broiler out at another site. What do you think? And they said, let's try it out, because their present system was expensive and it was also really hot. There was a lot of heat gain. And you guys can see this. Once again, I'm flipping through this because you're going to get this case study and you're going to walk down the hallway to your equipment guys and go read this. But here's the evidence: $12,000 a year in savings, gas savings for a small operation, right? That cut their gas use by 60%. More than half of their energy bill just went boom, just gone for one piece of equipment, and they like it better and they get better stuff. So the whole point here is that's carbon management made easy, because every BTU of gas that you save is a direct carbon savings, okay? And particularly on the natural gas side, it is just easy to do. So we're saving, and we didn't even have to talk about carbon. We didn't have to get into any gray areas. All I'm asking you guys to do is put in better performing equipment and save money. I went back and looked at some of these things. These are some efficient upgrades to ovens, and I stuck carbon numbers on them, right? 6 tons, 7 tons. This is tons per year. The one on the far right here, this is a supermarket with one of those big rotisseries, and we put in a combination oven, 11 tons a year in carbon. Okay, anybody here can bench press 11 tons? Not me. All right. It's just a lot of weight, right? It puts it in perspective. So what's the challenge, though? Your big challenge is institutional amnesia, because I keep coming back. I've been in this business 30 years. I've worked with a lot of your companies. We'll set something up, and then you'll have a stock market churn, and you'll lay off all the engineers, and you forget all the things we've trained you. Right? So somehow we have to build in some, you have to cultivate energy experts, you have to keep them. We need to build in some institutional memory within both your companies and within our entire industry. And because what we're trying to do is turn best practice into standard practice. The things that go into a magazine that's like, wow, we changed aerators and we turned our appliances off. That should just be like every day. That's like, how many articles do you see in New York Times, somebody seen wearing seatbelt? No, we just do it. It's a standard practice now. That's what we want to do with your industries. But this institutional amnesia is the problem. We're focused on the day-to-day, the labor costs, the food costs and stuff, and we move off of that big picture. One thing that we put together, and Andy's actually done this, is a training program that's a modular, online, on-demand, built for food service. This is one way to try and drive some of the stuff in. I'm also trying to get this into culinary institutes across the United States so that all of our graduating students who are moving into this industry, all the people that are going to be sitting in the chairs next to you in the coming years, already have some of this knowledge and they don't forget it, okay? So if you're interested in that, I'm the guy to contact. Talk to me, we'll figure it out. I actually, I narrate some of the bits there, so I kind of feel I got a personal piece into it. And I taught a class at Sacramento State, so we've managed to work this into the curriculum for hospitality management at Sacramento State, and it's now required. It's like a textbook. The students actually, they go to the class and teacher says it's required and you will be on this module by this date. And I went in and I just guest taught, right? And somebody saw my little guy there and she said, wow, finally an animation that looks like the real guy. And I was like, yeah, I think I've grown to look more like him than him like me. Final tools, you have stores in Northern California. Anybody here? Northern California, PG&E territory? Yeah, raise your hand, okay? Man, we got money to help you do this stuff. We want to help you do this, okay? So we have funding for gas saving projects. We have funding for site energy surveys. I got $500,000 to send a guy to walk through your restaurants, okay, and tell you what's up and how to save. We can host your training. We can train your staff. We got a try before you buy. You can bring equipment in. Custom rebate assistance. We've had all this stuff for 30 years. You guys just aren't knocking on the door. So that's why I'm up here like, knock on the damn door, okay? Email me. Here's my email, and I will shunt you to the right person, and you'll get a reply back, and we'll walk through all your stores. Is Togo's here? I don't know if they're here in the audience. That's one right now in Northern California. We're going through all their stores, and they're going to get a lot of data back. It's good stuff. Anybody in Southern California got stores down in the LA area? Yeah? We have a whole nother program called Restaurant Refresh. So contact me on that, and I've got some flyers on it, and it's the same thing. This is like a hand-holding. Let us train your staff, your management. Let's build some institutional memory into this stuff. And this is just the big win. We've talked about carbon. We have just cut carbon for everybody in this room, and all we had to do was talk about, saving energy and saving money, right? And the carbon just takes care of itself. So that's the easy part, Roger. You don't have to get in any hot water. So, all right, I'm going to thank you guys and pass it back to Roger, who's now going to give you how to do this stuff in the real world, what they've done.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, this is excellent, a lot of resources. So my role is to kind of bring this to life. So this is a case study. Actually, it was David Harpering and Jonathan. We went to, I think it was Central America to present this to our franchisees and to our operators there. And it was really about, if you look at it, unit economics. So we take it from saving money, but then how do you integrate this into your business? And it's probably for a lot of people the norm. And for some, it might not be. So we focused on electricity savings, on restaurant energy usage, and we had this model. I like to flip it around. It's really design, build, operate, and maintain. And then with that feedback loop is how you get continuous improvement. If you don't build it into your design on the front end, you'll be paying for it later. And so it really makes sense to really focus on what are those new innovations, what is that technology that I integrate on the front end of my design so that I'm not caught with those additional costs later. So one of the things that Richard was saying is, what's the best way to save money looking at, return on invested capital? And for the infinite paybacks is when you don't have to spend money at all and make money. That's a good deal, right?
Yeah, that's the way, yeah.
If you think about, for us, being in 135 different countries plus, with over 44,000 restaurants and growing, like I said, 6 a day, this adds up. And it becomes a competitive advantage when I'm competing against another brand to say, okay, my model is much more efficient than your model, in addition to all the brand love that we do with our advertising, et cetera, on brand building. So this is an intricate part of what we need to do. And if you look at a market like in Central America, say Puerto Rico, where you might have 44 cents a kilowatt hour versus about 11 cents here on average.
Yeah.
So you
about
might,
11 cents across the U.S. and here in California, you guys are looking at some little higher rates.
So you might be between 2 to 10% of your P&L involved in utilities. So this is a big deal. And then I guess the other fact is you need to generate $6 in sales for every dollar spent on utilities. So it makes sense. There's the money. Show me the money. There it is. So we went around the world, and tried to figure this out by sub-metering stores, by putting infrastructure in, understanding what the paybacks are. And it's going to vary depending on what your utility costs, what your KWH cost is. You're going to have a different business case. But we knew it paid back. So it's basic utility restrictions you might have in South Africa where you're going to have rolling blackouts. And then you have to switch over to diesel, and then now you're really talking about a high level of cost. So we have to think about, incorporate all that into what we call our blue line standards, and we'll talk about that later. And so you can just reduce carbon, put it into your overall story. We talked about the social good and social consciousness. You talked about millennials and Gen Zs wanting to know how is your company dealing with this issue, whether you believe in it or not. The question is, what are you doing to offset it? So those are real live issues that you have to be challenged with. And then as we looked at the overall utilization of energy across the footprint of our stores, we kind of broke it down into lighting, HVAC, and kitchen equipment. And there's a lot more in the smaller devices when you have 30 or 40 different pieces of equipment in your restaurant. So we looked at the bigger opportunities first. As we did the analysis, we recognized at this time with the case study that we thought we could attack 25% of our energy use as waste. And I can't remember the stat that David used to share. We're kind of like maybe Yum as a whole, maybe like the 5th country or a 7th country. You remember that fact, David? The 30th country in the world.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's not a good one to talk to PR about, but.
Yeah. and Roger, this is a really interesting point because I don't know how many people out here realize just how big food service is as an energy user. Mm-hmm. Within Northern California, within the PG&E territory, in my estimate, it's about 12% of the total load, commercial food service, 12% of the total load is for PG&E. Yeah, so. You guys, you're the mouse that roared. You're some of the biggest energy purchasers in the country, but you don't typically realize it because it's not aggregated. It's a store here and a store there. But when you put the bill together, like David said, you really are moving the mountain.
Absolutely, and KFC was very energy intensive as a restaurant. So we went to the operate and maintain. So here's the 10 action steps. You probably should already know this. Eliminate your incandescent lamps. Move to LED, and an LED is not an LED. So make sure you get the right supplier and make sure you have that consistency. And the interesting thing we talked about was it's not just about saving energy when you look at LED lighting. When you do your lighting design, it's not replace a lamp for a lamp. It's really truly a lighting design. And it can make your food pop. It can make your experience feel much better. It can feel warm to your environment. So it's not trivial things. It really is based in science, and we heard a little bit of that from Benjamin yesterday. Australia did the case. It was a 2-year payback, so this is a no-brainer at 17 cents a kilowatt back then. And then you look at the energy reduction in the light blue versus where you were before. So these things, through science and data and technology, show that you do have a payback and you get a return. So we looked at the exterior lighting as well as the interior lighting. Number 4, 5, programmable thermostats, really simple payback. Everybody, who has these right now in their restaurant? So is this everybody on, so we still have opportunities, okay.
Oh, it was funny, in the Restaurant Association Sustainability Report, it said that maybe 50% of the chains reported that they had programmable thermostats, and my first response was, where the hell do you buy a non-programmable thermostat?
Anymore, right?
Anymore, I would think that everybody, and those at least would have the little Honeywell. So in some ways, I feel like people may have these, and they're just not managing them well, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you don't think you have it, go check it out, because there's opportunity right there.
Absolutely, and it's a team effort. So we look at this energy schedule, startup schedule, and we look at through the whole operating day parts and figure out how do we optimize that, and that's where you work with operations to figure out, okay, this is the best schedule for me to optimize my utility use. Then we didn't talk a little bit about peak, but setting a peak and not setting a peak. I know that's changing a little bit.
Yeah, it's a thing to keep an eye on. Yeah, they may pay you for that peak pretty soon. You don't
nice.
Know.
That'd be nice.
Another reason to be involved with utilities and carbon and all this kind of stuff, because in a changing grid and a smart grid and with renewables coming online, the old rules don't necessarily apply.
Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things we had was a young guy in our business that created what we call the Biggest Loser contest. So he went out to the market, and we call it Pacesetter across the globe, is to figure out which restaurant is actually doing the best. He's implemented the standards, they're doing the scheduling, they're turning the lights off when they need to be turned off, they're starting up the equipment when it needs to be started up. And so they start to set what the benchmark is. And then everybody in the market, all the restaurants in the market, look at that benchmark and say, well, how do I chase that? Because that's the benchmark. Yeah. And so if you can get them on a Pacesetter program and have some healthy competition, you begin to drive those costs down and improve the performance of each restaurant. We use Pacesetter across a lot of different boards, and this is just a case study in the UK doing Pacesetter. Automated building management systems, or EMS systems, they're called. They seem to work if you can keep them running.
Yeah,
we'll talk a little bit about that on the question side.
Yes.
And I love this slide. This is probably my favorite slide because it's such a visual. And this RGM and the area coach swore on the manual lighting side that no, we turn off our lights. When we leave the restaurant, we make sure everything's shut down. I've got great team members doing it, but they're not there 24/7, right? So when you add the automation, you look on the left-hand side of the slide. That's what automation does. It's very consistent. And then we had a holistic study that we did on controlling the entire restaurant, and that's kind of what you saw in the video, was that this needs to be a holistic approach. It's not just one thing. It's about labor costs. It's about all integrated together, putting in that data feedback and making decisions. Yeah. And then the last point, I think, is about the maintenance. And we get into HVAC and hoods, and I know we're running out of time. When we get into hoods, that's really where you want to have engineers and facility experts that know what they're doing, because your hood systems can make a huge difference on your energy cost and the comfort of your restaurant and how team members feel in the back of your restaurant. So in the design and build, and then I'm going to end on this, I'm going to try to get through a couple of these, and then we're going to open it up for questions, leave about 10 minutes. Yep. So on the design and build side of it, we created a global standard. We leveraged the LEED certifiable standards into our standard called Blue Line. We did a gap analysis, and once we created that standard, we went around the world to see what we could leverage to make sure that we had an impact on our new store builds. Mm-hmm. These are some of the data points. These are real live numbers. We reduced HVAC by 40%, lighting by 30%, walk-ins by 60%. And on average, we were looking at about a $30,000 utility savings at 11 cents a kilowatt hour. Payback 1 year. That was in Thailand.
Wow.
United Kingdom, again, another 1.7 year payback at about $23,000 savings at 12 cents a kilowatt hour, same kind of numbers. And so each market, and maybe yours is like, prove it to me, show me the money. And so we went into each market and showed them how to leverage these standards with new stores. And then in China, a similar result on the water savings too. We included water at 60%, lighting at 59%, 1.5 year payback at $20,000 US savings. And water is going to be the next issue, right?
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
for an economy like China.
Yep.
They did some recognition. We had the LEED certification. The first one, I think, as far as a multi-unit operator, I think the second in the whole country where we got LEED certification. We did recognition at the restaurant, which was great. And then we had the government actually get involved, and they came out and got recognition to the store. So this is, you can take advantage of not just saving money, but how do you build up team members? How do you get everybody engaged? And they feel really, really, really good about this. And then the question is, did it really cost more? So this is a data point of about, I'd say about 50 to 60 stores that were built, and basically we normalized it and looked at the cost. And if you look at the dotted line, that's the average cost. And if you look at the red line, that was one of our LEED certifiable restaurants that we built with the Blue Line standard. And you can see we actually did it below cost, which is not really what most people think. And that's because, like Deborah said, don't put in things in the restaurant that you don't need. That's the ultimate sustainable move and the savings move. I know a lot of you, and including us, were under pressure to continue to reduce the cost of the model. But again, you don't have to do it at the sacrifice of looking at these energy savings initiatives.
Yeah, and in some cases, it really makes sense to look at the life cycle as well.
Absolutely.
You know, if there's
Absolutely.
one sin that people people do on the design build, it's just looking at that first cost just to get the thing built and open the door. You really need to run your ops in as well. That's the big picture.
I've got many great examples I'm willing to share. Again, my shout out to David Harpring, who works for Halton, and they can give you designs on hoods and all the different information. You know, I could share this with Michael and make sure they have this information online so you can see some of the examples. I'm going to leave it because we got about 8 minutes or so.
Okay.
If there's questions or things we want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I want to pitch out first. I want you to tell everybody how you got your teammates to keep on working with the energy management systems and making sure that because these systems can be complex, and we talked about the fact, once again, it's that institutional amnesia. You put in a system and then it doesn't, somebody moves on or the company closes or doesn't get a software update and suddenly it's gone, or the manager doesn't care. And you guys use gamification and social, so to talk about this, because this is a good example of using behavior change and the good things about humans to actually build this institutional memory.
Yeah. It's still a challenge for us, but one of the things we did do was we tried to engage in total operations. So the operators are the folks that are running the store every day, as you guys know. And then on the front end of that, before you turn over the store, if it's a new store, it's around your design team and your development team. So when you engage with them, help them understand, what's the design up front, what are the benefits, then you get buy-in. And then once you get that buy-in and everybody agrees that that's the new standard, then it's a handoff to operations and making sure that they're engaged to be doing it every day. If this is something off to the side or something that is not in the daily routine, then it's not gonna work. You can't totally rely on technology. You need an energy manager or somebody at the store level to really be engaged, and then check on the data every day. And how does that engage with the targets and set points that you set in order to drive profitability? And once you do that, and the franchisees do that, because once they see the result and they see the savings, that money's going right back into their pocket. So if you've got a portfolio of a couple hundred stores and you can save $500 to $1,000 a month because you're doing this, it really adds up. So that's kind of how we tried to do it.
Yeah, and that was the Biggest Loser contest, is that right?
The Biggest Loser identified it and put it on the map. What we learned from that is it's very hard to focus because you got new product introductions, you got the new rollout, and so when it's a manual process, then it's going to fail, ultimately, because the turnover's at 200, 300%. Somebody's not going to pay attention. So you have to do a combination of integrate it into your standards of operation, as well as put some automation in.
Yeah.
It's a combination of two.
Yeah, we're trying to make it painless and fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? That would be because it's hard to change behavior. It's hard to make these things stick.
So should we open it up for questions
or
got
questions
engage
out
the
there?
audience a little bit?
Come on, you guys have the rock star of sustainability here, so this is the time to pick his brain. Yeah. Yes, in the back. Do we have a microphone?
Yeah,
Michael, you got it? Right over here, there's a question.
Okay.
Okay. There you go.
Do you all know of a service where if I wanted to send a set of architectural engineering plans out for a grade on how well the kitchen would perform or how well the HVAC mechanical, I'm looking for an opportunity to send a set of plans out to you to kind of get some feedback on what we could do to make those, to do the build out in such a way where it's a lot more energy efficient.
So you're talking about your hood design in combination with your HVAC systems?
The entire thing, including
Yeah,
the kitchen.
yeah, and then like your diffusers, or where your diffusers are in that location?
Everything, whether or not the kitchen equipment is efficient, whether it's not efficient. You know, we've got 3 fryers, and just get some feedback on our overall set of plans. That's kind of how I'm thinking about beginning this journey.
Okay.
And we can certainly do that. And do you have any stores in Northern California?
I don't. I knew you were going to ask me.
Yeah.
No. Mostly
Are you building a store in Northern California?
Hopefully soon, but now mostly Texas.
Okay, so we can work, the reason I ask is in Northern California, we have public dollars, we sit down as consultants. We can also work as private consultants, so we'll have that discussion off stage, and we have an office in Texas too, so. Yeah,
Great.
but that's a great, just coming back to the room, that's exactly what I would recommend that you do, and we do that for people, and we look and we say, hey, we recently did a NetZero Energy project, and this is a good story because at this site, they are absolutely have to be zero net energy. They have their photovoltaics on the site. It's a small kitchen, it's a charity, a really high-end charity, and they're not connected to the grid. I mean, they are, but they're not going to pull any power from the grid. So when the architects designed this joint, they finally had to come back and really look at the kitchen. You know, they can no longer, like a lot of green buildings, big office buildings and hotels and stuff, they'll go, we'll build a green building and we'll just draw a square and we'll put something in the kitchen, we won't worry about it. And that's been our challenge. But in this case, there's a strict energy budget. And so they brought us their equipment list and their schedules and their menu, and we sat there and we worked with it, and we said, well, you probably don't need this piece of equipment. You can probably do a smaller piece of equipment. You guys could get rid of the freezer, increase the refrigerator. You know, there's some smaller modular stuff. Make sure your schedules run this way, and we fit it all into their budget. And those big energy hogs were those 4 or 5 cooking pieces of cooking equipment in the main kitchen. Yes, yeah.
Specifically for the kitchen vendors are providing the design for the client. I don't have a lot of faith in that.
Yeah. So the point is that the people, it used to be like this with Brendan, you're in the room, you know, we always talked about this having designed by the lighting vendor. So you're saying that, you know, it's designed by the manufacturer, the kitchen vendor. And you're right, there is perhaps some incentive for them to do things their way and not necessarily 100% your way.
Yeah, and I would interject, you know, with Halton, the company that we work with, we shared a lot of those drawings, and I know David has the mic and can speak on this, so you can see your loads, you can see what you're trying to do on the balance, you know, and I think you need that holistic look that you can look at for an engineer to kind of help you with that. So David?
One thing that might help, one of the pie charts that Roger showed kitchen equipment is about half of the energy use in the restaurant, and then HVAC and lighting. And within the kitchen equipment, there's a finite number of Energy Star categories. And so if you go, it's really pretty simple. If you were to go to the USEPA.gov website, they have a list of the categories of Energy Star equipment. It's like reach-in refrigerators, reach-in freezers, dishwashers, fryers, and so forth. And if you know what manufacturer and model number of fryer you're using, for example, you can go right there. They have an Excel spreadsheet. It lists all of the manufacturers and their model numbers, and you can quickly say, well, I've got a Pitco, you know, whatever. And if it's on the list, you know, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
If it's not, then you could go to your supplier and say, well, wait a minute, why are you specifying less than Energy Star fryer?
Yeah.
And that would simplify things. At least then you could narrow down the categories. You may have certain equipment that you know, based on your menu, you can't change. And so I would just take those off the list and go to the ones that you can change. I think it's usepa.gov is the website for Energy Star, and you can look at that.
Actually, it's EnergyStar.gov
EnergyStar.gov
/CFS. That's the secret code to get there. CFS for commercial food service. But yeah, Dave's exactly right. But I would suggest that you go deeper because, I mean, we recently did another analysis for a big chain, and they were looking at the fuel source of their fryers, right? Should they be electric, natural gas? So we sat there and built a model for them and showed them where it makes sense to buy, where it's cheaper to buy the gas fryer or the electric fryer. So there's a whole level of analysis beyond the Energy Star that you can bring in. And if you're looking at a new store, a prototype, invest that time to get it right. And like these guys did, like David did, then it propagates, right? Because that's what they did in China. They really spent some time to analyze everything. And then bam, you pull the switch and now you're building one every 4 hours.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Yeah, any more questions? Well, on behalf of Richard and the team and being at Restaurant Spaces, this has been great. You guys have been a great audience. Thank you for getting up early and having breakfast.
Thanks guys.
And coming
We
to see
appreciate
us.
it, yeah.